Morning.
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 Hi. So, hi. I'm Shosan Victoria Austin. If we haven't met in person, I will uh, be available to meet you sometime over the next weeks or months. So, I live in San Francisco, next door to San Francisco Zen Center, and I've been practicing my whole life along with Peter and Jane, my Dharma brother and sister. And So they went off to Japan and I stayed here. But we hold hands and walk together in our practice every day. So if anyone has a child you would like to bring to the first part of this lecture, you're welcome to go and get your child. And in about 2 minutes, we'll have a very important video that Chris will be playing for us. And then I will tell a story that's kind of like the video, but kids might like to see the video. So you're welcome to bring a kid if you want. So I think maybe I won't introduce the video further, but I will tell you that the subject of my talk today is how do you go about getting the point of Buddhist practice? So the Buddha was born as a prince in a very privileged set of circumstances, and he was given everything. He was given all the material resources and encouragement and everything that a boy and a young man could want. And it meant nothing to him. What he really wanted to do was to go and find out more about the human condition, which he did. He realized that in a series of road trips with his charioteer, he had realized that everybody is subject to suffering, and he wanted to find out how that comes about and what human beings can do about it to live more satisfying lives, to wake up to this incredible gift that we've been given of human life. I think this is a very important lesson for today, in which there's so many things that seem to distract or detract from the quality of our lives. And the things that society has to offer us to take care of that feeling of dissatisfaction and sometimes despair don't really help. So, for instance, I was in some accidents in 2008 and 2010 that destroyed my ability to think and speak and move very well. And I worked pretty hard and wasn't expected to make a full recovery. And in some ways, I haven't made a full recovery, but I've made a lot of recovery. And so, how do I deal with the constant sense of unfairness and pain and suffering so that I can get around to actually taking care of my life in ways that work for myself and the people around me? So, this is what the Buddha wanted to teach, and not in a self help way, but in a way in which we'd really see into the nature of our lives together. And so I offer this video, and I don't think we should record the video. It shouldn't be on Beginner's Mind website, but Chris will play it for us. The story that we just saw, Bluey and the Wise Old Wolfhound, is a very important story. And it is in the tradition, if anybody's old enough to remember Saturday morning cartoons, it is in that tradition. We didn't used to have Saturday morning lectures, we had Saturday morning cartoons. They were smaller then. But in the story, of course, Bluey is sick. And there's a video, or Bluey's sibling is sick, I think. And Bluey helps make a video, right? Helps Daddy make a video called, it's Bumpy and the Wise Old Wolfhound. So that Bluey's brother brother, can see it in the hospital. And in the video, Barnacus gets a puppy as a result of a wish and is very happy, and one day the puppy gets sick. And Barnacus doesn't know what to do and goes everywhere trying to get help for his puppy, but no one can help. So Daddy gives the cue of, why don't you go to the wise old wolfhound? And Barnacus goes to the wise old wolfhound and asks, and the wise old wolfhound says, I need a pair of purple underpants from someone who has never been sick. Now, you got to know that in Bluey, no one wears clothes, except in this episode. The purple underpants are part of the episode, so this is a crucial part of the episode. Anyway, the wise old wolfhound gives this assignment, and Barnacus goes everywhere and again can't find it. And then Barnacus is sitting on the front steps reflecting on maybe the puppy will never get well and it's not fair, and realizes the lesson that the wise old wolfhound was trying to teach, which is that everybody gets sick. And that, in essence, is the first noble truth that the Buddha taught. Life is suffering, or in other words, there's always something. And then that insight gives Bluey, Bluey's sibling, I think, a new tool, acceptance of the situation. And then the response can be accurate to the situation. It can be an appropriate response of playing, playing with the puppy, or actually Barnacus playing with the puppy, petting the puppy, giving the puppy good food, letting the puppy rest, caring for the puppy. And one day, magically, the puppy is better. Puppy's better because this is a kid's movie, right? In grown-up movies, the puppy doesn't always get better, but in kids' movies, usually the puppy gets better unless it's really being created by a very, different kind of person. But in most kids' videos, the puppy gets better. In ours, it doesn't. Anyway, this is I love this story. It reminded me of the story of Kisagotami. Do you know it? Okay, is it okay if I tell it again? Okay, so there was a woman named Kisagotami, and she had a son, and who she loved very much. The son was not only important because of the kid himself, but also because she had married into a much more wealthy family, and she was from a poor family. And the son was the way of her way of getting social status in her husband's family. And but the child died at a very young age, so maybe even like 2 or 3 years old. And Kisagotami had never seen death before, and she went insane. She started carrying her son's body around and seeing if anybody could bring her son back to life. And then she went from place to place, and nobody, of course, could. And finally she went to the Buddha and said, "Would you please bring my son back to life?" And the Buddha said, "Okay. Go and bring me a white mustard seed from the house of someone, a house where no one has died." And so she immediately rushed off, just like Barnacus did. And first she got a mustard seed, and then she asked, and then that in that house someone had died. And then she went from place to place saying, "Has someone died here? Has someone died here?" The answer was always yes. And it struck home. And she had an insight that everyone gets sick, everyone dies. Her sanity came back. And she spoke to the body of her son and she said, "My child, I thought that death had just happened to you. That's why I went mad. But it happens to everyone." And she held the body of her child in her arms. She went into the forest, she dug a grave, and buried her son. And she left the body of her son in the forest after creating a shrine to him, went back to the Buddha, and said, "Thank you for teaching me about suffering. I wish to practice the path." And the Buddha said, "Come, nun." And she was ordained. Kisagotami became one of the foremost of the early practitioners of Buddhism. And she gained peace. So here's a poem that she wrote later. The first part of the poem, Kisagotami, said, "The sage looked at the world and said, with good friends, even a fool can be wise. Keep good company, wisdom grows. Those who keep good company can be free from suffering. We must understand suffering, the cause of suffering, and its end and its path. These are the Four Noble Truths." And then in the voice of Patachara in Kisagotami's poem, it continues. "On a journey near to childbirth, I found my husband dead." This is Patachara speaking in the poem. "I gave birth on the road. I hadn't yet reached my home. I lost my sons, my husband dead on the road, and mother, father, brother, all burned on one pyre." And then there's a third voice that comes into the poem. "Suffering woman, your family has been destroyed. The pain cannot be measured. Your tears have been falling for thousands of lives." Patachara. "I saw the jackals eating the flesh of my sons in the cemetery. My family destroyed, my husband dead. Despised by everyone, I found what does not die." Kisagotami has the last word in her poem. "I have practiced the great eightfold way straight to the undying. I have come to the great peace. I have looked into the mirror of the Dharma. The arrow is out. I have put my burden down. What had to be done has to be done, has been done." Sister Kisagotami with a free mind says this. Later, there's another story about Kisagotami. There's not so many stories about a lot of the women, but there's another story about her in which she goes into town to beg for food after her ordination. And she ate and then went into the forest and sat down at the foot of a tree to meditate. And then Mara, who's in charge of delusion, went to that place and said, "What's going on? You look as if your child died. You're sitting alone and tears are streaking your face. You've come into the woods by yourself. Are you looking for a man?" And then Kisagotami responds in her own thought, "Wow, is this a human being or not? Oh, it must be Mara. He's spoken this verse because he wants to make me scared. He wants to ruin my meditation." And so she sat still for a second and then she responded, "Mara, I'm done with the death of my child. Men belong to that past. I don't grieve. I don't cry. I'm not afraid of you, my friend. Everywhere the love of pleasure is destroyed, the great dark is torn apart, and death, you are also destroyed." So I want to give you a third story, and this story is by Milarepa from the Tibetan tradition. And this is the first story in the Thousand Songs of Milarepa. So Milarepa left home and went to be trained. He became apprenticed to a magician, and he learned various magic powers. But when he got home from his studies, his family had stolen his land and his legacy, what his father had bequeathed to him. And so he struck them all dead. And then he was immediately struck with anguish and grief. And he thought, I have to study the path to help take care of my karma because I have committed great harm. I deserve to die, but instead I'm going to practice. And so he went to a teacher, Marpa, and he said, would you teach me the Dharma? I have committed great harm and I want to practice. And Marpa said, absolutely not. Go away. And Milarepa tried again and again. And he was really in despair. And then he went to Marpa's wife and said, how do I get this man to listen to me and teach me the Dharma, to help me atone for what I've done in life and reconcile, take the path of restorative justice and reconciliation for the harm I committed. And Marpa's wife said, you got to give him an offering, and here's a bolt of cloth. And so Milarepa takes the bolt of cloth and goes to Marpa and says, here, I have this offering, please train me. And Marpa says, you think I don't recognize a gift that someone else has already given me? Get lost. And Marpa says, no, please, 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 please. And Marpa says, okay, you're gonna build me an addition to my house. Milarepa says, anything, I'll do anything. And so he builds this wonderful addition to Marpa's house, and then it's all done, and he goes to Marpa and says, could you see it now? I've built it for you. Marpa said, you built it square. I wanted round. Tear it down. Milarepa tears it down, and he builds it round. And Marpa says, you built it round. I wanted it triangular. Build it triangular. Anyway, this goes on for a long time, and finally Marpa accepts Milarepa as his student and trains him, hears his confession, ordains him, and trains him. And then the time has come for Milarepa to leave Marpa, and he walks up into the mountains by himself, up into the place where the wind blows, and he's going to establish his hermitage there. So he builds a little hut, and he starts to sit. It's freezing cold there, and he's run out of fire and food. And so he goes out to get some twigs, because his first need is warmth. But when he reaches down to pick up the twigs, his robe flies open, and he gets even colder. And then when he closes his robes, the twigs fall down, and he can't get them back to his place. Anyway, finally, he goes through this whole process of getting the twigs back. He opens the door to the hut, and there's demons everywhere. Big ones, little ones, nasty ones, ones that seem nice but aren't. They were all jumping around in great glee and saying, ha ha, we are your demons, ho ho ho, now we can get you. Anyway, he tries everything to get rid of them. He tries his powers. They don't work anymore because he's already given them up. He tries everything. And finally he says, look, friends, I've seen through you. You have no fear for me. You hold no fear for me. I invite you in. I acknowledge you. And they all go poof. And Milarepa continues to be one of the greatest teachers of Tibetan Buddhism. Anyway, I've told you 3 stories, or Amazon Prime told you 1 story, and I told you 2. This story of Kisagotami you can find in Susan Murcott's book, The First Buddhist Women, and you can also find it in a set of Buddha's teachings called the Therigattas. It's the poems of the first Buddhist women. And so what all these stories have in common is an attitude towards finding the origin of suffering, which is our own fear and reaction towards adversity, and turning ourselves around to look at it it's in the face, exactly the way it is, and then making an appropriate response. So I don't, the reason that this story is good for Bluey is that a 4-year-old can understand it, right? But can we practice it? That's why I want to offer it today. So shall we discuss? Thanks. Comments, questions, reactions? Were you able to hear the video? Give me a thumbs up if it was okay. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, you don't have to raise your hand, just speak, and if you find yourself speaking twice, give someone else a chance. Okay, Steve, you wanted to start off?
Yeah, this is wow, very wild. Hope I can get through this. I just had a visit from my grandkids and my daughter, and it's the first time I met my grandson when he was first born. I went up to Alaska, but they came down here, and Bluey was the main thing being watched. So I am totally blown out by this. It's as if you guys know my life, and there it gets presented before me. And the real part, my daughter suffers from bipolar and refuses to acknowledge it. And it puts everybody in a whirlwind. I I so desperately just want to see the kids and stuff, but with that there, and I didn't handle it very well. Uh, you gave this gave me some insight of uh, what I'm doing wrong, uh, even though she doesn't accept it. I need to, but in the same turn, uh, I want to tell her that I can't have a relationship like this until she acknowledges and gets help. And I don't know if that's even the right way to go about it. But anyway, thank you. This is like amazing. Uh, Thank you.
Thank you. May I make a suggestion from my
Sure.
Buddhist side? So so I do sit with sick and dying and people in a lot of trouble. And one of the only things that helps is to have other people who can support you if you're going to make an intervention with your daughter. You've just suggested something that's a healthy boundary. You suggested what you can't do, but you also need to suggest what you can do. And what are the two sides of the boundary under these conditions, and what would be a different boundary if she got help? You need professional help to consider this question. I would ask a professional how to do an intervention for someone with bipolar who doesn't acknowledge the condition or get appropriate treatment. But the main pieces of it are the message from not just you but other people about how everyone has been struggling one by one. Speak from your own voice, been struggling with the situation as it is. And so what you're not willing to tolerate anymore, what you can't do with the new boundary, what you can do with this boundary that you're setting now, and what you would be able to do if she took the next step with her own condition. So those are the main elements, and then it ends with a request. But you need professional help to do this. And so this is in line with the idea of appropriate response based on turning to face the situation and understanding that you're a human being and no single person's response is going to be enough. That there's more people who are affected in this situation. And
Yeah, everybody gets it. And I'm really concerned about the little kids because it's
mhm,
ran in her family for years and everybody except one person has denied it. And the funny part, not funny, but the part that is concerning is it seems to run in the females. There have been male that
mhm,
had it, but most of the females in the family have
yeah,
it. And I worry about those little kids because denial of the mother means denial of the children having any issues. So,
yeah. And I think that the main message for the group is that some situations are too difficult to respond to all by yourself.
okay,
That there are ways that people have developed over time to intervene in these situations and set appropriate boundaries. And what are they? Who can help you? So I would ask, if you know a psychologist or a social worker, I would start by asking them their opinion. If not, then ask your doctor
thank you.
because it's an impact on you and the kids, right? So they
Eh,
know about the boundaries. So
right, right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So Matt has a raised hand. You don't have to raise your hand, Matt, but
Okay.
do
Hi.
speak if you wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, I don't know if you know this, but I'm also bipolar. And I finally accepted it about 40 years ago when I was in my mid-20s. And it was very difficult to accept. It's very difficult for, I think, probably everyone who's who has the illness to accept. Uh, if you ever want to talk to me about it, please do. If you feel that there's uh, a way for me to talk with her that she would accept, I'll make sure to get you my phone number
Okay,
later. Yeah. And also, there are support groups for the families of people who have bipolar children or bipolar family members. And these support groups have people who are in your position. They have people who have been finally able to get their relatives to get treatment, but that treatment process is irregular and needs continued support.
Mhm.
So it's a tough road, and I just want you to know that I'm happy to be of help. So
appreciate that.
you bet.
Yeah, leave your number, definitely. Thank you,
Okay,
Matt.
you got it.
Thank you. I want us to notice what Matt just did. Okay, so this is an example of someone who has thoroughly examined. Um, all of us have conditions. That's the point of the Bluey story, right? There isn't anyone who doesn't have a condition. But how do we use our conditions to appreciate human life and to help people just as they are, not by wishing them to be different than they are, but by accepting them just as they are? How do we do that? How do we support each other? How do we show compassion? How do we show wisdom? This is what Matt just contributed to the discussion. So it's an example, this is a really good example of horizontal transmission of the Dharma, because it goes beyond just kind of uh, normal friendliness to be in its accuracy and its alignment with the teaching of the Buddha. So I want to thank you, Matt. And we've all benefited from your example.
Oh, well, it um, It's just the inclination of doing what's needed.
Thank you. But that's what the Buddha said. Thank you.
Thanks. Hang in
Um,
there, Steve.
yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Mike, did you have your hand up? That
Yeah, I was debating whether I wanted to ask this question or not. Um, I was gathering from the story that one of the problems is that sometimes we get overwhelmed with our problems, and when you get a lot of undesired answers to your questions and results from it, how does a person not let it overwhelm them? How does a person just sit back and say, wait a minute, this is happening. There's not a lot can be done about it, but it's not a situation that I don't need to add any fire to because of my attitude toward it.
mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering if you could expound on it a little bit for me.
Yeah, the Buddha teaches that there are three levels at which we can get help. The word saranam gacchami, remember how we say Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. Those words, saranam gacchami, means, we translate them as I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. But what that saranam gacchami means is much more specific. It means this is where I get my shelter, my safety, and my support. That's what those words really mean, not just I take refuge in. Refuge is a wonderful emotional word, but the specifics of refuge are shelter, safety, and support. So shelter, making a place for this for the overwhelming issue to be held. Safety, making an appropriate boundary, an appropriate container, so that it doesn't hurt or kill you. And support, finding people who can give resources, who can give their heart intelligence or their head intelligence to either hold or discern the next step. Shelter, safety, and support are three different levels. So these three different levels of refuge, and we can take refuge at the level of Buddha nature or oneness, where we just sit with it and allow that healing and that peace to become part of the whole big picture for us. We can find shelter, safety, and support in our history. For instance, let's say if you have an issue like Steve brought up, then in your history or in the world, just in normal ways, you can go and seek a psychologist or a social worker or a doctor who knows about these things. And that's kind of historical or truth that we have in our lives, that level of the same level of truth that a stop sign has, that people understand what a stop sign means. They stop at the stop sign. It creates safety and support for road manners. And then the third one is skillful refuge, skillful safety, shelter, and support. When do you rely on Buddha nature or just Zazen to help you hold an issue? When do you rely on, kind of specific interventions or people or skills that you're going to bring up? So those are the three levels. One is big, one is universal, one is particular, and one is functional. So that's what I want to say. I don't know how, it's 12:05. Am I supposed to be stopping?
Thank you.
Am I supposed to be stopping?
Chris.
Chris, what's
Yeah,
the
it's about service time.
Yeah, okay, so I'll stop now and go on to my next meeting, but I want to thank you. I feel honored. Thank you, Joel, for giving me your lecture spot. And
You're super welcome. That was beautiful, Shosan. It was, thank
and
you so much.
okay, and I'll see you guys again in July. So I'm going to come back and talk again in July. And if you have any suggestions or questions for me to give a lecture about, please tell Spencer or Chris. Don't tell Joel because he has an overwhelming amount of work right now, but tell Spencer or Chris and I will respond, or you can email me directly, okay? So thank you.
Thank you, Shosan.
Thank you.
Charles, thanks for bringing your kid.
Yes.
I could tell she likes Bluey.
She does. Yes.
It's like the best show out there for kids, don't you think? So,
Yeah, yeah, it's a really cute show. I
yeah.
like it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going now. I'll see you.